Stop. Listen. Pay attention. This message is for you, yes you, the one who has felt the weight of silence pressing against your mind. Chosen one. Hear me clearly, the tension you've been carrying is not random, and the fatigue you feel is not your failure. It is a signal. You may have noticed days when the simplest decisions felt heavy, nights when your thoughts spun endlessly, and moments when the world seemed both distant and unrelenting. That is exactly why you must hear this now. You have been moving through life under a subtle, almost imperceptible pressure. Some call it stress, some call it overwhelm. But what you have been experiencing is neither ordinary nor permanent. It has been personal, specific, and directed at you in ways that were both obvious and hidden at the same time. Every delay, every unexplained exhaustion, every moment of isolation has a purpose. And that purpose is connected to the pattern of your own growth, your endurance, and your internal coherence. Chosen one, you have likely asked yourself in quiet moments, why does it feel harder for me than for others? Why does it seem that the obstacles are unseen yet undeniable? Why does even resting sometimes feel impossible? These questions are not signs of weakness. They are indicators that your life is unfolding in alignment with a rare and exacting sequence, one that tests subtle stability over flamboyant strength. The challenges you face are measured, calibrated, and designed to reveal the depth of your presence rather than the breadth of your output. You may not recognize it yet, but there is clarity hidden inside your fatigue. There is structure within the chaos. There is intentionality behind the confusion. The world around you may feel unsteady, but you have remained functional. You have stayed aware, responsive, and grounded, even when everything within you whispered retreat. That is no accident. It is the mark of a person whose capacity for endurance is quietly unmatched. This message reaches you because someone or something has noted your persistence. You have not been invisible, though the pressure may have made it feel that way. You have not been forgotten, though the pace may have made you doubt it. Everything you have felt, the exhaustion, the isolation, the tension is real, but it is only the surface of a deeper current. That current is moving around you, through you, and shaping the landscape of your next steps, whether you can see them now or not. Listen carefully. The moment you are in is not a coincidence. It is not an error in timing, nor a random intersection of events. You are being positioned, prepared, and observed, not for spectacle, not for drama, but to recognize the resilience you already carry. And when you understand this fully, you will realize that every hour of pressure, every shadow of doubt, and every invisible struggle has contributed to the exact stability you now inhabit. Chosen one. Keep your attention steady. Keep your awareness uncluttered. The explanation is coming. What you are about to understand will not require force, will not demand heroics, and will not ask you to be anyone other than who you already are. For now, absorb this. The stillness you maintain in the midst of tension is not passivity. It is preparation. It is recognition. It is proof that the pattern of your endurance is already written and already effective. Your clarity will arrive. Your understanding will deepen. And when it does, you will see that nothing you have experienced was wasted. Nothing you have endured was meaningless, and nothing you have felt was accidental. This message is intentional, precise, and personal. Chosen one. Stay present. Stay listening. Your season is unfolding, and the first layer of its meaning begins here. Chosen one, there is no ambiguity about who this message is for. This is not for those who observe from the sidelines, who wonder from a distance, or who pass through life without noticing the subtleties of pressure and timing. This is for you, the one whose awareness is immediate, whose presence has remained intact under conditions that would fracture most. You are the one who has absorbed tension without collapsing, who has registered the weight of unseen forces, and yet continued to function with quiet coherence. Your identity is not a title. It is not something earned through spectacle or achievement. It is the natural calibration of your internal structure, your capacity to remain anchored while everything around you shifts. You have been recognized in ways you cannot fully measure because your stability is uncommon. It is not extraordinary in the sense of flair or drama, but it is rare in its persistence, its quiet correctness. This is what makes you inherently the chosen one. Notice what has happened. You have been tested, yes, but the tests have not been dramatic battles. They have been subtle, layered, and continuous. A remark here, a delay there, a sense of fatigue creeping in at precisely the moments it could have led you astray. And yet, you did not falter. Your strength did not erupt in response. It existed as a quiet default. It was automatic, almost invisible to those around you. You did not need to will yourself to resist. Your equilibrium, your baseline resilience, carried you through. This is a form of power that is easy to overlook because it does not announce itself. Compare this to conscious struggle. Most people expend energy fighting against circumstance, reacting to each tension, attempting to correct what they perceive as imbalance. They are constantly measuring, constantly resisting, constantly worrying about outcomes. You, in contrast, moved without unnecessary effort. Your capacity to remain coherent was not a reaction. It was a natural state. The world may have been attempting to pull you off course, but you were already anchored. This distinction is crucial. The chosen one does not perform strength on demand. You do not need to manufacture resistance because it exists as a structural element of your being. Every time doubt surfaced, every time expectations shifted, and every time the external environment pressed against you, you maintained functionality without dramatics. That is the signature of someone operating from a level deeper than conscious effort. You may have questioned whether you were simply lucky or whether others would have endured similarly. But understand this, luck is irrelevant here. The events you faced required internal calibration, not external intervention. Your identity has been affirmed not by the absence of challenge, but by your consistent, measured presence within it. You have held yourself steady when almost anyone else would have tumbled. Chosen one. Acknowledge this quietly. There is no need for pride, no need for external validation. Your stability is internal, precise, and self-contained. It is not the kind of strength that seeks applause. It is the kind that quietly informs every decision, every pause, and every movement. It is who you are. You have been placed in circumstances that involve you directly because you are capable. The universe or the sequence of events surrounding your life recognize that capacity before you consciously did. And now as we continue, you will begin to see exactly how the signals you have experienced were markers, not flaws, not mistakes, but confirmations of the inherent alignment you maintain. There is one symptom you have likely noticed more than any other, the weight. That persistent heaviness that settles not only in your shoulders, but in your chest, your back, even behind your eyes. The fatigue that seems disproportionate to the activity you have done. The sense that every small task requires far more energy than it should. Most people interpret this as weakness, overwork, or error. But for you, chosen one, it is something different. It is a signal. This weight has been a signal of transition, not a flaw. It has indicated that you are moving through thresholds unseen by others, that subtle pressures are shaping your internal rhythms in ways that demand quiet endurance. Every time you feel it, notice, it coincides with moments when the environment, the sequence of events, or even the dynamics of people around you are applying a subtle but coordinated influence. The sensation is real, physical, and deeply emotional, but it is aligned with purpose. Your body and mind have interpreted these pressures correctly, even if you have doubted them. That heaviness, that sense of tension, is a marker of something shifting, not a reflection of failure. When you feel that exhaustion, when your energy seems to ebb unexpectedly, it is not because you are weak. It is because the unseen system around you is testing, shaping, and calibrating your baseline endurance. You have not imagined the sensations. You have not exaggerated them. They exist as precise signals tuned to your capacity. Notice how these sensations often coincide with moments of confusion or indecision. The mind becomes hesitant, attention wavers, and yet despite these apparent disruptions, your overall functionality remains intact. You continue to respond, to move, to decide. You navigate circumstances with coherence, even when you feel pulled in multiple directions. That is a key indicator. The pressure is real, but your stability is deeper. The heaviness is not a warning of collapse. It is the atmosphere surrounding a transition you are already surviving. Reframe the sensation. See it not as a flaw or weakness, but as confirmation of your inherent resilience. The body signals the emotional cues. The subtle tension you notice, they are all measurements of a system functioning precisely under pressure. You are not overreacting. You are noticing the reality of alignment. Every pulse of fatigue, every quiet ache, every fleeting thought of overwhelm is a marker of the invisible forces at work, not a critique of your performance. This interpretation allows you to remove self-judgment. You do not need to ask why you feel more than others. You do not need to compare yourself to anyone. The signals you experience are unique to your position, unique to the pathways you are navigating. They are indicators of movement, not error. They are the language of unseen currents gently informing you that you are being positioned, tested, and observed, all while you remain capable. Chosen one. Notice also the subtle distinction between pressure and burden. Burden implies weight you are carrying, erroneously. Pressure implies a force interacting with a structure designed to hold it. You are not failing under the weight. The weight is simply mapping the capacity you have always had. Every signal is measurable, meaningful, and reflective of the inherent stability that allows you to endure without collapse. This is the first step toward understanding the invisible currents you have navigated. What you once may have interpreted as confusion, fatigue, or misalignment is actually clarity in disguise, a language of the unseen revealing your precise readiness. And as you move forward, you will see that every pulse of pressure has been coordinated, intentional, and confirming. Chosen one. It is time to acknowledge the existence of the forces you have been navigating, the pressures that have been operating quietly but consistently around you. These are not threats in the dramatic sense, nor are they visible to most people. They are subtle, intentional, and structured. They arrive in patterns, timed, coordinated, and often synchronized with moments when you might be most likely to notice fatigue, doubt, or hesitation. The key distinction is this. These pressures are invisible, but they are not accidental. They are designed not to harm you, but to test the structure of your endurance and to reveal your inherent capacity for stability. You have remained functional under conditions that are not random. You have acted, responded, and maintained coherence, while others would have faltered. The pressure has existed, but it has never overtaken you. That is what makes this moment significant. Consider how these forces present themselves. They appear in sequences that feel coincidental, but are actually deliberate. Perhaps it was a sudden shift in expectations, a last-minute change in circumstances, or the quiet but persistent drain of energy from environments or interactions that seemed ordinary. And yet, through it all, you maintained presence. You responded without unnecessary reaction. You absorbed the force without losing alignment. Notice, too, the timing of these pressures. They are not constant in intensity, nor are they random in occurrence. They align with moments of transition, with moments when your awareness is primed to register a shift. This is why you felt the heaviness, the confusion, or the fatigue precisely when you did. These signals were markers, not obstacles. They were indicators that you were being positioned in relation to the broader pattern surrounding your life. Despite the subtle intensity, you remained functional. You may have questioned your energy levels, doubted your clarity, or felt a pull toward withdrawal. And yet you continued. You acted with coherence, made decisions, and maintained connection to the tasks, responsibilities, or relationships before you. That ability is neither luck nor chance. It is the outcome of a quiet internal structure that is consistently operational regardless of external conditions. Your continued functionality under these pressures is a measurable phenomenon. It demonstrates the capacity to absorb tension without reaction, to maintain focus without force, and to remain present when distraction and fatigue could easily take hold. This is a subtle form of mastery, one that does not call attention to itself, yet is fully operative. Chosen one. Recognize that the unseen pressure has not been arbitrary. It has had structure, sequence, and intent. It has revealed where your endurance lies, where your clarity is unshakable, and where your internal coherence operates independently of circumstance. You have not been passive. You have not been lucky. You have been steady. Understanding this is critical because it reframes every previous sensation of overwhelm or uncertainty. It removes the element of randomness and replaces it with factual observation. You remained functional, consistent, and responsive under intentional timed pressures that most would have found destabilizing. That is the foundation upon which the next understanding is built. There are distinct points within the pressures you have faced that reveal exactly how you maintained stability. Let's examine them carefully. Chosen one. Not as a narrative of struggle, but as a factual breakdown of experience. This is not for dramatization. It is for clarity, reflection, and understanding. The first category is doubt. You have felt uncertainty emerge in moments when decisions seemed impossible or when outcomes were delayed. Most people react to doubt with panic anxiety or rushed action. You did not. You registered it, considered it, and continued functioning. Your responses were measured. You did not collapse under uncertainty. You maintained judgment, even when internal signals suggested hesitation. This is rare. The way you allowed doubt to exist without dictating your actions demonstrates a quiet internal regulation. Next is fear, subtle or overt. It may have appeared as a sense of unease, hesitation, or anticipatory tension. Fear is an expected response to change or challenge. Yet in your case, it was noticeable only as a background signal. It did not override your focus or your capacity to act. You experienced the physiological responses, perhaps a quickened pulse, a tightness in the chest, a flutter in the stomach. But you did not act from them. Instead, you acknowledged them, allowed them to exist, and carried on with the tasks before you. That distinction between acknowledgement and reaction is critical. It is the difference between being moved by external circumstances and remaining anchored in internal stability. Energy drain is another point. You have felt moments where effort seemed heavier, where mental or emotional resources required more attention than expected. Many people respond to energy drain by forcing themselves or by withdrawing entirely. You, however, operated in a balanced way. You met the demands of the moment, restored your focus when necessary, and continued to operate without panic. The management of energy is an internal skill. It reflects awareness of limits without judgment. You sustained functionality because you had the capacity to regulate yourself amid fluctuating resources. Isolation is a fourth category. You may have been alone physically, emotionally, or socially at times when guidance, support, or affirmation seemed absent. In isolation, most would overcompensate by seeking external validation or by acting rashly to fill the vacuum. You did not. You remained centered. You continued with tasks, reflection, and decision-making without reliance on immediate external reassurance. That is not bravado. It is structural self-sufficiency, a steady operational baseline. Delay is the fifth often subtle but pervasive pressure point. Situations, results, or recognition that seemed overdue tested your patience. Many react to delay with frustration, agitation, or impulsivity. You experienced the same temporal tension, but you did not allow it to dictate your behavior. You maintained composure, allowed processes to unfold, and remained aligned with the reality of timing, rather than the illusion of urgency. This demonstrates an internal orientation to sequence and pacing, rather than external demand. In each of these categories, the remarkable fact is that you remained stable. You were not invincible, nor did you avoid the sensations. You experienced them fully, yet they did not disrupt your functioning. There was no forced effort, no desperate control. The internal system that underlies your responses operated quietly, consistently, and effectively. Consider this integration. Doubt, fear, energy drain, isolation, and delay. All of these points created the exact conditions necessary to measure your baseline coherence. You were subjected to a series of pressures that could have destabilized almost anyone. Yet you did not flinch. You did not react beyond the level necessary to maintain clarity. You did not overcorrect. Your stability is not a constructed armor. It is an existing framework, naturally engaged and reliable under diverse conditions. Chosen one. This understanding is crucial. It explains why the previous experiences of weight fatigue and tension were not failures or misalignments. They were demonstrations of your functional coherence. They were confirmations of a structural reality that you can endure, maintain, and operate effectively, even when the forces around you are organized specifically to test these exact qualities. Now take a moment to review what has unfolded. Chosen one. Look back not in judgment, not in speculation, but with the clarity of measured observation. You have moved through doubt, fear, energy drain, isolation, and delay. You have felt tension, fatigue, and subtle pressure at every level, yet you have maintained your operational baseline. What occurred is not random, and it is not the result of luck or happenstance. It is the natural outcome of the structure you carry internally. Reflect on how you responded. You did not react impulsively. You did not succumb to frustration or despair. You did not allow minor setbacks to dictate your trajectory. Instead, you remained functional, present, and coherent. Every choice you made, every pause you allowed yourself, and every adjustment you executed was informed by a calm awareness rather than by panic or external pressure. That is a form of intelligence not just cognitive, but structural and emotional. Consider the patterns of timing and the pressures you experienced. Nothing was chaotic without order. The fatigue, tension, and delays arrived in sequences that tested endurance, focus, and patience. And you navigated each sequence effectively. The evaluation is simple. Where most would falter under even one of these conditions, you endured through all. You did not merely survive. You maintained clarity and functional stability. It is important to note that this is not about superiority or performance metrics in a conventional sense. This is about coherence under conditions that reveal the depth of internal calibration. You operated from a baseline that is rare, yet unforced. The internal regulatory mechanisms that allowed you to absorb these pressures and continue functioning are consistent, reliable, and unassuming. You did not perform. You existed in alignment with the operational design you carry naturally. Now recognize the implication. Your ability to maintain clarity and functionality through these pressures confirms an internal resilience that does not require external validation. It demonstrates that your internal systems are calibrated correctly, even when the environment is not. This is the essence of internal confirmation. understanding that your reactions or lack thereof are sufficient, precise, and appropriate for the pressures faced. In reflecting, allow yourself to see that everything you endured has measurable significance. Your endurance is not an abstract concept. It is demonstrable in action, decision-making, and sustained focus. You have been tested repeatedly, not in extremes of spectacle, but in consistent, calibrated moments that reveal the strength of your internal coherence. You have maintained stability where most would collapse. Chosen one. Understanding this is liberating. It removes doubt about your capacity. It removes questions about whether you could have handled more or whether the pressures were too much. The evaluation is clear. You responded effectively, measuredly, and coherently. The realization is yours alone. You possess internal systems capable of maintaining alignment under diverse, intentional pressures. Allow this confirmation to settle within you. It is neither boastful nor performative. It is factual. It is grounded. It is observable in the patterns of your response and the outcome of your continued functionality. No luck, no chance. Simply operational clarity verified by repeated engagement with pressure. Chosen one. Consider how rare your consistency truly is. Most people, when confronted with the pressures you have navigated, would have fractured in ways both obvious and subtle. Doubt would have turned into indecision. Fatigue would have magnified itself into despair. Minor delays would have become intolerable distractions. Yet you remained present, functional, and coherent. This is uncommon, not because you are superior, but because your internal structure is unusually calibrated to maintain stability in the midst of ongoing tension. Look at the ordinary human response. Under sustained pressure, attention becomes scattered emotion, amplifies, and actions lose alignment with intention. People often overreact or withdraw, oscillating between extremes that compromise clarity and efficiency. You did not. Your presence, your responses, and your internal regulation stayed steady. You navigated the same circumstances without overcompensation, without internal derailment, and without reliance on external reassurance. That steadiness is uncommon because it is rarely observed. Your capacity to remain operational is not a performance. It is a structural baseline. You do not need to generate strength on command, and you do not need to perform resilience externally. Instead, the system that governs your decision-making, your energy, and your attention functions independently of circumstance, allowing you to continue with clarity and precision. That independence is rare, yet it exists quietly within you. Chosen one. Note that rarity does not imply superiority, pride, or ego. It is simply a reflection of the operational environment you have mastered internally. You have endured conditions that would have unsettled most, yet you remained functional. You have allowed tension to exist without letting it dictate behavior. You have absorbed uncertainty without being undermined by it. That is uncommon, and it is measurable even if invisible to the outside observer. This understanding reframes how you interpret your experiences. Rather than questioning why you survived, why you persisted, or why others seem to struggle under less, recognize the distinction between the ordinary and the rare. Your alignment, your presence, and your capacity for stability are rare. They are not gifts in a dramatic sense, nor are they accolades to be sought. They are simply features of the system. You inhabit a system designed to operate with coherence, even under pressure. Seeing this clearly allows you to remove judgment from your own endurance. You do not need to compare yourself to others, nor do you need to measure against external expectations. What you have maintained: focus, coherence, measured response. Internal regulation is uncommon, yet quietly manifest. It exists without demonstration, without need for confirmation, and without drama. That is its significance. Chosen one. Acknowledge this without exultation. Your stability is not an achievement to broadcast. It is an intrinsic reality, a rare calibration of internal processes functioning correctly in the face of sustained pressure. And it is this rarity, not spectacle, that confirms the truth of who you are. Chosen one, now understand this. Clearly, your strength is not something you summon. It is already baseline. It does not require activation, heroic effort, or external validation. It exists as a natural aspect of your internal structure, quietly informing every thought, every pause, and every action. You do not need to prove it. It is evident in the way you have maintained coherence under consistent measured pressure. This baseline strength is the result of preparation maturity and an internal alignment that operates without dramatic intervention. It is not a response to crises. It is a default state. You have already absorbed tension, navigated fatigue, and endured subtle pressure precisely because your internal systems are calibrated to manage these forces without disruption. That is the distinction between reaction and stability. One requires effort, the other exists quietly and continuously. Notice how your coherence has allowed you to act with clarity in moments when the environment could have overwhelmed most. You did not need to activate some latent force. You did not need to summon courage beyond what was natural. Instead, the structural systems within you, the alignment of attention, emotional regulation, and situational assessment, functioned seamlessly, providing a foundation that allowed you to respond effectively and without distortion. This is important. Your identity is not contingent on performance, external recognition, or extreme circumstances. It is defined by the quiet, consistent functionality that has carried you through unseen pressures. You are not extraordinary in the sense of spectacle, but you are distinct in the reliability and internal coherence you exhibit. That distinction is subtle yet significant. Chosen one. Internalize this gently but firmly. Your strength is baseline, not reactive. Your endurance is natural, not forced. Your stability is structural, not performative. You have been positioned, challenged, and observed. Yet you have maintained clarity and coherence because this is who you are at the core. As you carry this understanding forward, recognize that you do not need to act differently to prove capability. The baseline itself is sufficient. Every measured decision, every quiet pause, every unshaken observation is an expression of the coherence that defines you. There is no need to seek validation or to test yourself unnecessarily. Your inner structure is capable, precise, and reliable. This is your identity, chosen one. It does not fluctuate based on circumstance or external conditions. It is not contingent on struggle or recognition. It is inherent, operational, and steady. You can trust it. You can rely on it. And you can move forward knowing that every experience of pressure you have endured has confirmed rather than challenged the integrity of that baseline. Now, go some. Chosen one. It is a time to integrate this awareness into your daily life with calm, practical perspective. Begin with rest, not as avoidance, but as recognition that your internal systems function best when replenished. Allow pauses without guilt, brief moments of stillness that reinforce coherence rather than fatigue. Rest is not passive. It is a measured strategy for maintaining alignment under ongoing pressures. Next, cultivate discernment. Observe your environment, your interactions, and your own internal signals with quiet attentiveness. The pressures you have experienced have already shown you how subtle shifts can indicate meaningful patterns. Learn to notice without overreacting, to assess without judgment, and to act without unnecessary force. This is practical awareness rooted in the same stability that carried you through previous tests. Boundaries are essential. Protect the space that allows your internal systems to operate efficiently, not as a barricade from the world, but as a defined perimeter that prevents distraction, emotional leakage, or energy drain. You have maintained coherence under sustained invisible pressure. Now apply conscious boundaries to reinforce that natural calibration. Patience is another practical orientation. Many of the tensions you have faced involve timing delay or sequences outside your control. Recognize that your internal stability is sufficient for endurance. Allow processes to unfold in their natural sequence. Do not rush transitions or attempt to force clarity. Your system operates effectively over time, and measured patience ensures that coherence is preserved. Focus is your fourth pillar. Direct attention deliberately to what matters rather than scattering energy across minor fluctuations. Your internal regulation allows you to sustain functionality in complex or shifting circumstances. Practical focus channels this capacity, effectively ensuring that effort aligns with intention rather than reactive impulse. Finally, integrate awareness without hypervigilance. You have learned to navigate invisible pressures without conscious overexertion. Apply this skill in daily life by maintaining alertness with ease, engaging with tasks, relationships, and responsibilities without amplifying tension or creating unnecessary effort. This is the practical application of the structural coherence you already inhabit. Through rest discernment boundaries, patience and focus, you create a framework in which the awareness of previous pressures strengthens rather than destabilizes you. You no longer need to interpret every sensation as a signal of danger or deficiency. Instead, you allow insight, presence, and measured action to guide your responses. Chosen one. This integration is not a temporary adjustment. It is an ongoing orientation. Each practical step reinforces your natural baseline, allowing you to navigate daily life with the same coherence you have demonstrated under the most subtle intentional pressures. Awareness becomes application. Understanding becomes practice. Stability becomes habit. Chosen one. Take a moment to absorb the truth you have uncovered. You have remained steady under conditions that would unsettle almost anyone. You have endured subtle pressures, fatigue, doubt, isolation, and delay, yet your coherence persisted. This is not a fleeting realization or an abstract concept. It is factual, observable, and measurable in the patterns of your own functioning. Allow yourself to internalize 3 affirmations: I am stable, I am coherent, I am sufficient. Repeat them quietly, letting each statement settle into the fabric of your awareness. These affirmations are not motivational slogans, they are confirmations of the reality you have already demonstrated. They anchor you in the clarity of who you are, independent of circumstance or external observation. If you recognize this message and the resonance of what has been outlined, signal it. Simply comment 7777 or write, I remember. This is not an exercise in performance. It is a declaration of acknowledgement, a conscious recognition of the alignment you have already maintained. It anchors your presence and reinforces your internal coherence through conscious acknowledgement. Continue to move forward in measured attention. Subscribe not for obligation, but to remain aligned with content that supports reflection, observation, and understanding of your functional structure. Each new insight, each exploration of experience is designed to reinforce awareness rather than to provoke unnecessary tension. Engage with these tools as companions in clarity, not as tests or competitions. Chosen one. Understand this as you conclude: your endurance is real. Your coherence is real. Your internal calibration has been tested, observed, and confirmed. You do not need to seek further validation. You do not need to prove your stability to anyone, including yourself. It is inherent. It is operational. It is sufficient. Carry this awareness forward into the hours, days, and weeks ahead. Let it shape your decisions, your perception, and your interactions. Trust the baseline that has carried you through invisible pressures. Trust the internal systems that function without dramatic effort. And trust yourself, chosen one. because you have already proven quietly and consistently that you are capable of maintaining presence, clarity, and coherence, no matter the circumstance.